Howdy, welcome to Pure Accelerate 2020. My name is Brian Carpenter, Senior Director of FlashBlade Technology Strategy for Pure Storage.
Hey, Brian, Jim Kinney here, CEO, founder of Kinney Group, longtime, passionate, pure partner.
Yeah, and everybody, welcome to Optimizing, Virtualizing, and Automating Splunk at any scale. I think this is a great time to explain it. Kinney Group's, obviously Pure has a lot of involvement with Splunk. Kinney Group also has a long tenure with Splunk. Jim, I think you're what was the name of that partnership that you have with Splunk?
Oh gosh, we're an elite services partner and grizzled Splunk veterans. We've been doing the Splunk thing since late 2012, and to date, close to 600 different engagements with customers, helping them deploy Splunk.
Yeah, working with some of not only the Splunk's largest customer, but also Splunk and Pure's largest customer. And we appreciate that from you, Jim.
Yeah, it's been great.
And so, Jim, we talk about this all the time. This is the Splunk Administrators Challenge, and this is what we're focused on today is how can we help Splunk administrators focus on what they actually need to do. So from your perspective, what is it that you see with customers dealing in their Splunk environments today?
Oh gosh, this is like a massive challenge number one. Customers, the Splunk platform is really compelling, can deliver just extraordinary results for customers, but way too much time is spent kind of actually wrestling with fully activating and operating the platform, and not enough time really extracting the business and mission value that the platform can provide.
Yeah, and I mean, from my perspective as an individual, as a former customer, a technologist, and probably from your perspective as well, that's what everybody's trying to do is how do we help our customers? How do we help the Splunk administrators and teams and users and everybody spend less time thinking about managing, operating, all of those things that are involved with Splunk infrastructure and spend more time extracting that value for the users? How do you align people and their core competencies with what they're supposed to be focused on and get those business outcomes, right?
You bet, man. You're hitting the nail on the head. It's at the end of the day, it's really about extracting value out of the platform. That's what the game is really all about.
Yeah, and it's a very pervasive platform, right? It's in well over 90% of data centers everywhere. And so the first thing that we try to help people do is get agility via disaggregation, right? And so when we talk about disaggregating and we talk about what that means, there's all these things that happen when you have these trappings from legacy DAS. And it's not a Splunk problem. This is a mindset that's existed in DAS for years. And so it's part of sort of the way people have done big data. We're talking about rebalancing, adding servers. The future is this disaggregated approach. And there's a lot of value that is added through Splunk and Splunk Smart Store in helping with build statelessness, making simplicity there. But the traditional Splunk architecture, that based on that legacy DAS approach, can also get a lot of the benefit of independent scaling of storage and compute.
Yeah, that traditional approach, I got to tell you, when we talked about the complexity thing and some of the challenges with scaling, that legacy tight coupling between compute and storage has just really been a challenge. And what we've done with you guys kind of helps break some of those barriers.
Yeah, I mean, all day long, this is what we deal with, whether it's Splunk. Obviously, you can check some of the other Accelerate sessions. I know there's one on Elastic, Kafka, these kind of things that are part of our conversations is scaling compute and storage independently, which is extremely valuable. There's also just traditional efficient storage utilization, right? So, what other workloads could you put on that same storage where possible? Things like not islanding storage. If you size for a certain thing, you're not using all of it, what's been left out there. These are the things where shared storage benefit. But traditional log analytics and analytics architectures have been doing that DAS approach. And we're seeing where disaggregation can help with both the utilization and, in Pure's case, the massively simplified management of those, going back to the real use case, which is letting people focus on what they want to do. Finally, there's architectural flexibility. That flexibility to be able to say, timeline horizon your products differently. You may want to horizon your compute for 3 years just because of tick and talk and all those kind of things. But you want to horizon your storage for almost never with things like Pure's Evergreen, right? And so you want to have the flexibility both from a cost perspective, from a design perspective, independent upgrades, all of these kind of things are all things that you can benefit when you leverage disaggregated compute and storage, and especially in Splunk, both in the traditional model as well as in Smart Store. The next thing, go ahead, Jim.
No, you bet. You know, the only thing I threw in there, you also have this lightsaber in what this thing's called Pure as a Service. I know we're not going to talk a bunch about that, but I tell you what, you blend great technology with a really interesting consumption model that it really aligns well for a growing Splunk environment.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. It sounds like you're a better Puritan than I am by bringing it up, so I appreciate it. Yeah, Pure as a Service is a great consumption model, and we can, that cloud-like model, and it's not just a story. It's truly cloud-like from an OpEx perspective. The next one that we want to do, and Jim, this is where you're teaching the market, you're leading the market, and letting everybody know, and obviously Pure's relationship with VMware and others, we're hooked into virtualization. We get it. We know it. If you haven't seen the other Accelerate sessions, there's probably one out there by Cody Osterman. Don't miss that either. But while you're here, let's talk about virtualization and consolidation and what optimizations you can get. And again, look, this is just an example. And the point of this example is to show, you put it in your mind, what could you do at scale if you could do something like this? So if you virtualize your indexers, your forwarders, and candidly all of the different roles inside your Splunk environment, it's not the traditional guidance, and we'll let Jim speak to that. But like, here's an example of 5 indexers with 16 vCPUs, 64 gigs of RAM, doing roughly 4 terabytes a day of ingest, right? And that's on 5 indexers. And along with that, of course, there are the universal. You're like, well, no, for real, it's coming in somewhere else. It doesn't matter where you're doing that parsing. The workload still is being leveraged on CPUs. You're seeing here 35,000 events per second total on 4 universal forwarders. All of this consolidated in less than 5, or actually not less than, exactly 5 virtual servers, including physical servers, all the other roles in the environment. So 5 physical servers, all these virtualized. You've got the license manager, you got the cluster manager, you got cluster master, all these things. That is a great conversation around consolidation. And so, Jim, you talk to people every day about virtualizing their Splunk environment. Why don't you help us understand where the challenges are and where people are getting those benefits?
Well, you bet. Well, I mean, you saw from the previous slide, the design that we collaborated with you guys on, we crushed the performance. I mean, really kind of blew some of the numbers out of the way compared to legacy approaches. Virtualization has really been a key for us. Like I said, we've seen well over 500 Splunk implementations over the years. Far and away, virtualization is providing the agility and flexibility that really a modern implementation of Splunk needs. We fully recognize that historically, recommendations have been to put Splunk functionality on bare metal. No need to do it. It works fantastic being virtualized, and not only does it crush the performance, but it drives down costs at the same time.
Yeah, and Jim, with your help, and also in other environments where we haven't necessarily worked with you, we see this over and over again. We're seeing customers gravitate towards getting efficiency in their Splunk environment. They're very happy with the outcomes. They just want to do it better. And most of the way that they do that is by disaggregating, which we're seeing a ton of, and virtualizing, which we're also seeing a ton of. And one key piece of feedback is I saw a customer is like, look, I mean, I got so much back just by virtualizing. And we were like, well, guidance says this. And they're like, look, I know that we presented. We even saw somebody present on other types of virtualization at the most recent Splunk conference. So it's really out there. I hate to say it, but it's sort of getting that groundswell. I think most people are at the point where that's really what they're going to do with their next deployment. And it's really about getting that consistent model. And that's where a reference architecture with the ability to predict simply predict what scale looks like as a result of that gives you a high comfort level, right? So we look forward to it. By the time this recording's over, with the calls to action, you'll be able to go out there and get the existing reference architecture as well as get signed up to get Kenny's future architecture as well. And so the final thing that we want to talk about, it's not easy. It sounds easy in 15 minutes, but it's not always easy, which is why we're here to work with you, is how do you optimize to get total simplicity in this environment? And so, Pure does a lot to help people optimize. First thing is, obviously, we have our Pure Service Orchestrator, which helps in other environments that may not be with Splunk, but is still readily available to you. But on top of that, we have other integrations, whether it's DevOps and monitoring integrations, things like Ansible modules and collections for FlashArray and FlashBlade. Kenny is going to talk further about Puppet. We do have our Puppet modules for FlashArray. We also have Salt, Terraform. There's others out there, right? We don't want to put every single logo on there. We already put too many. We do have our add-ons for FlashArray and FlashBlade. And then that other monitoring, we have a Prometheus exporter, which I've actually seen a couple of Splunk customers leveraging those exporters and getting additional monitoring. It's, it's funny. It's Inception all over again. You've got a pipeline. You got to put a security pipeline against that pipeline, and then you got to monitor your security pipeline with a monitoring pipeline. Plus, you've got to put KPIs on the original pipeline. All of that. So it's the circle of all these different log pipelines and monitoring pipelines, and we're here to help. And so we built these DevOps integrations and monitoring integrations to help out. But that's just help, right? There's still more. You got to know more about how to do these integrations well. And that's where I think out of everything that I've learned from you, Jim, and your team, that's one of my favorite parts is like optimizing your Splunk environment has some really interesting parts, and automation is just the beginning.
You bet. We led off the discussion with, what Splunk admins are wrestling with, spending too much time, trying to deploy, activate, and sustain the system, and not enough time trying to derive business value. Brian, this is what the reference design is all about. And so, instead of folks having to figure out how to optimize Splunk operating in an environment with pure FlashBlade, the Kenny Group team, the Splunk, and the Pure Storage team collaborated together and figured it out. And so we've created a template, we've created a design and an associated configuration that is optimized to extract all the performance out of both the storage and the compute layer. But we've done it in a pretty clever way that's got an eye on a couple other things. One could argue, especially customers using Splunk at scale, the nature of the data is really important. So that environment really needs to be hardened and secure. In our design, working with you guys, we hardened the entire design in accordance with FISMA moderate. This is the same standard that is used by the US government for secret level networks, and that's a core part of the design. We took it a step further, again, in the spirit of making it easy. Instead of having to, follow a 40-page cookbook on how to configure, we automated the deployment of the entire thing. And so it is push button easy to deploy a kick-ass Splunk environment on the reference hardware. And take a step further, the techniques that we use, again, we use Puppet. That when we deploy with Puppet, we again reduced complexity and risk. And that is, we have, as a derivative work, automated configuration management. And so what that does is provide some protection for the Splunk admin from someone inadvertently making a change to the environment that they shouldn't. So in total, working with you guys with the reference design, we've made it push button easy, optimized for performance, secure by design. The Pure Storage platform makes it all possible. The reference design makes it happen.
Yeah. And, the goal at the end of the day, what I hear from most people is all the things, all the, trappings and challenges of, day to day for everybody. When they speak about their Splunk environment, it's usually like, I would like to do more, but my challenge is this. And what we've spoken about in the last couple of minutes is, how do you alleviate those challenges? Some of those are adoption of new lines, new architectural paradigms. Others are simply doing things better. And what it really comes down to is increasing ingest now without those challenges. That's what we see a lot of people do. I talk about people want to add 86,000 endpoints and they just can't because of X, Y, Z. We see this every day, all day long. I know you do too. And that's why, making it simple and push button easy to both secure it and automate it, leveraging something like Puppet is a great way to do that. And we see that with those high functioning customers. So everybody else should be able to do it too. It's just a matter of, like you said, getting that simple template. And so, we know everybody wants to dive deeper. We would love to have spent hours with you, but, we need to keep it concise. And so we do have a case study here with Frost Bank. We also have a solutions brief on our website around Splunk and enterprise scale. And of course, there is the current reference architecture around Splunk Virtualized. And please go sign up for that reference architecture. Get yourself involved with it, with another one, a modern refresh, including this type of stuff that we've showed today. All of that security, all that automation, all part of that reference architecture, and telling you more about why Pure for Splunk. And thank you again, Jim, for all of your time today and helping our customers here at Pure Accelerate 2020.
Oh, happy to help, Brian. Hey, it's awesome. Let's go rock the free world with this reference design.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Please catch those other sessions. Please go click those links if you need to, and we appreciate all of your time today.